श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। In writing the Bashyam for this, Acharya starts with explaining the word itself, Upanishad. And as we have seen already, he explains the word and how the word meaning is derived. Not only that, he also shows how the Anubandha Chatushtaya is also embedded in that. What is the Anubandha Chatushtaya? What is the Vishaya? Vishaya Brahmajnanam. Who is the Adhikari? Really speaking, every single human being is potentially an Adhikari. Although most human beings don't make an attempt to establish the Adhikaritvam. So something like 95-98% of the population of the world are out of it, at least in this Janma. But potentially every single human being is an Adhikari because they have they've been given certain things which no other Jiva seems to have. One, they have been given the power to discriminate, the power to judge. And self-judgment becomes the very basis for saying there must be something more. And human beings come with a mixture of punya papa, as you know. So there's no single human being who does not go through some amount of discomfort, physical, mental, emotional, whatever, which can cause or should cause the human being to question, which should lead theoretically into saying, what is the answer? Why is this happening? What is the reality? Where is it that I don't understand? And look for that which can give that person clarity. Doesn't quite happen that way. But potentially every single human being is well equipped to see that and therefore go after it. For what? What is the phala that one is seeking? Acharya said, samsara nivritti. And what is samsara? Samsara simply is by the interaction of the senses with the sense objects, running this gamut of relative sukha and relative dukkha, which you see in the Jagat. That is samsara. And that is really the primary cause, saying, why should I have to go through dukkha? Why am I subject to dukkha? Nobody wants to be a dukhi. If somebody argues, no, I'm okay being unhappy, that is a circular argument. If it's like saying, I'm very happy being unhappy. If you're unhappy and that's what you want, you should be happy. You should be happy being unhappy. That is not a valid argument. Therefore, one tries to find out what is it that causes this. And because they have such a modicum of unhappiness, every human being wants to get rid of this feeling of unhappiness. And we all make a lot of efforts. We make a lot of effort hoping that whatever little I do will reduce unhappiness. It might reduce unhappiness. It will do it temporarily, but it can never eliminate it. It can reduce it temporarily. Then what happens? Oh, I found a method of reducing it a little bit. Therefore, if you do more of it, whatever it is that caused that to happen, if you can get more of that, it'll reduce further. But can never eliminate it. That is the prayojanam we are looking for. Complete removal of a sense of unhappiness. In fact, complete removal of the whole gamut, starting from very happy one end to very unhappy the other end, remove the entire thing. Not being neutral, no. But recognizing that this whole gamut of happiness and unhappiness belongs to samsara. Of that, as long as I'm in the positive range, I don't really need to take any action. But you can't stay there. You have to move into the negative range. And when you start finding yourself in the negative range, then you start wondering why. This is the drama that is being played out all the time in samsara. That is samsara. So the prayojanam we're looking for is samsara nivritti. To get out of that complete range and being able to look at it and say, what silly thing we've been doing. And the fourth of the Anubandha Chatushtaya is Sambandha. If those are the people who are understanding the Vishaya of the Upanishads with the end goal of samsara nivritti, how does this Grantha help? How does the Upanishad as a Grantha help get there? So typically we look at two types of Sambandha. One is called Pratipadhya Pratibadhika Sambandha. This is the revealer of the truth, and the truth being revealed is what will give you that phala, which is samsara nivritti. Really the same thing when I say sadhya sadhana sambandha. This is the means to an end. There is no other way you're going to get there. This is means to that knowledge, and that knowledge is that end. So all four are covered in every Upanishad. This particular Upanishad, Kathopanishad, is the form of a story, Akhyayika. There are many good things about the story. In many ways, we are like Balaha. small children. Because we have some ideas, but we don't really understand the truth. So to make the mind think about the truth, a story is a very good way of doing it. And the story, this particular story, has many things that come out. It is a story, and it has protagonists, like any other story. In every Upanishad, there is a teacher and a student. And in every Upanishad, the students' virtues are extraordinary. You don't go asking these questions unless a lot of thought has gone into it already. You look at every question that every student asks in any moksha grantha, including Bhagavad Gita. The very question formulation itself indicates the level of understanding of the student. You take Prashnopanishad, you take Mundakopanishad, any of them. Sometimes it's scary. One starts looking at saying, oh boy, these guys are so far advanced in their thinking. How am I going to get it? I don't have that. I've not reached that level yet. That's one part of it. That the student is brought out as being somebody who is eligible to ask such question because he or she has read, understood a lot already. One of the reasons that Shastra tells us to continuously do Shravanam is that at each step of Shravanam, although it is repetitive, what is said in every Upanishad is the same. There's no difference. Therefore, every guru will really talk the same thing. Style may be different, the examples may be different. They'll bring out examples based on their own lives, perhaps. Times may be different, conditions around may be different. But the message is exactly the same. And the methodology is exactly the same. That is a tried and tested methodology which has worked for thousands of years already. But the message is exactly the same. Message clearly is, why do I go through all this? And the answer is because I have made a mistake. Somewhere there is a mistake in my understanding. That mistake is basic, very fundamental, universal. Everybody makes the same mistake. Sometimes you find Upanishad says, these are all meant for ajnani, ignorant people. None of us is ignorant. We're all highly erudite people. We're all people with a lot of thinking capacity. How can you call me ignorant? This ignorance has nothing to do with ignorance of objects of the world. This ignorance is not a reflection on one's thinking capacity or analytical capacity. This ignorance says, what you have known, the knowledge and ignorance on the scale is not what we're talking about. That whole scale belongs to samsara. What we are talking about is understanding that that's not the ignorance we're talking about. Nobody is ignorant. Even the so-called low IQ person is knowledgeable in many things. We are not even in that category. We're all in very high category. So when Upanishads or any of the texts call us ignorant or balaha, it is not a derogatory statement. It is meant only to wake us up saying, look, all this you know. But what Upanishad is trying to tell us is step out of it. And look at what you know. What Upanishad tells you is very different from all of that. And that one single message is what every Upanishad is giving and every guru is trying to expound. So this story, with a very beautiful story of a very young boy. This young boy is at a stage in life which everybody goes through. We can look back at that stage. You are not really out of childhood. 12, 13, 14, whatever the period is, you're not out of childhood. You still behave childishly. You still plead with the parents childishly. And the parents are indulgent. But you have had certain amount of interaction with the Jagat, with samsara, certain conclusions you've already formed, certain things you've seen, depending upon individual exposures. These days, the exposure is excessive. There is no dearth of information. And the accessibility of information is increasing geometrically. So every child is perhaps maturing faster. But the capability, the physical capability is not maturing as far. That remains the same. All children at that stage are in the Vardate stage. You know this, Shadvikara. They're all in the Jayate Asti Vardate stage. They have not gone into the Parinamate stage. They have not transformed into young men or women. Parinamate is when you metamorphose into a state where you are ready to become a parent. Physically. Only physically. That is the stage. So you will find alternately at that stage, children behave like a child at one time, and then another time they will advise the parents. Look back on your own childhood. That stage, that transition stage, and Acharya uses several words to describe that, we will see, is where this Nachiketa is. And therefore you will find his behavior at one point childish, at another stage so far ahead of his age, so far mature than what would expect a child at that stage. Obviously, he's had a lot of exposure about what Veda has to say, about the rules and regulations of the Veda, but doesn't really understand the truth yet. So the story starts with his father. Nachiketa's father is doing a yajna. And that yajna he will talk about, and we will see what Acharya has to say about the yajna. Why is he doing the yajna? How is the child, when he is watching all that, with whatever knowledge he has, he's thinking about them, he's contemplating on what's happening. And in fact, in some verses, he's soliloquizing, talking to himself. So the first verse says, Ushan Havai
Ushan Havai
Vajas Tavasaha
Vajas
Vajashravasah
सर्ववेदसं ददौ
सर्ववेदसं
ददौ
तस्यः नचिकेता
तस्य नचिकेता
नचिकेता नाम पुत्र आस.
नचिकेता नाम पुत्र आस.
So he was doing Bhajashravasaha, was doing a yajna. And as a part of the yajna, Sarva Vedasam Dadau. He was giving away all the wealth. And he had a son named Nachiketa. This is all that the Upanishad says. If we read this Upanishad, what will one understand? Even at this simple, this thing, the sentence is very simple. Vajashavasaha was doing a yajna. As part of the yajna, he was giving away all his wealth. Sarva Vedasam Dadau. He had a child, a son named Nachiketa. That is all there is. But there is much more to it. That is where Bashyam reads between the lines and explains this. At the simple stage it does that. Later you will see much more complex sentences. All Vedanta sentences are cryptic. So if you just read the sentence and translate literally, it will not mean much. But when you read into it, it makes a lot of sense. You read the Bhashyam together. Tatra Akhyayika
Akhyayika
Vidyastutyartha
Vidyastutyartha
Ushan Kamayamanaha
उषन्
Ushan
कामयमानः
Kamayan
Ava iti
अवा
Ava
इति
iti
Vrithartha Smaranarthau Nipatau
वृद्धार्थं
Vritartha Smaranarthau Nipatau
Vajamannam
वाजमन्यं
Vajamannam
Taddana Nimittam
तद्दाननिमित्तं
Taddana
Dhanadi nimittam.
Sorry?
Tadhanadi.
Taddanadi nimittam.
Taddana
Prabho
Nimittam
Yashaha Shrabaha Yashaha
श्रवः
Shvaha
एषः
Yashaha
Yasya Sa Vajashrava Rudito Va.
Yasya sa Vajashrava Rudito va
Now, Tatra Akhyayika Vidya Stutyartha. This is in the form of story, says Bhashyakara. We know, we've seen that. Why is it in the form of story? He says, Vidya Stutyartha. As a means for easy understanding. Remember, he's called us in many places Balaha. And to Stuti basically means to praise. But here, what he's suggesting is that it is done in the form of story for easy understanding. For ease of understanding, and highlights the Vidya. That Vidya which is our Prayojanam. What is the story? Ushan. Ushan is a desiring. Vash dhatu. So in fact, Tikakara says, Vash kantau ityasya satrantam rupam ushan iti. Satrantam is continuous present. Desiring. desiring certain end result. Ushan. Kamayamanaha is the meaning that Acharya gives. Ushan means Kamayamanaha. Meaning that the desire that he had, which he want to gain, desiring that end. Kamayamanaha. Hava iti. Hava is, thus it happened. Hava, indeed, this happened like this. How do you start a story? Normally, we'll say, once upon a time. Tamil there is one, no? One song I heard when I was a child. Ore oru oorile ore oru raja. In some town somewhere, one Raja was. This is a very common beginning, no? When there was a king. Once upon a time, there was a king. Avai iti vrthartham smaranarthau nipatau. Indeed, what happened before, recollecting what happened before. So, Ushan Havai, the Bhashyakara expands on that. Typical style of Bhashyakara is, he will take one word. Like here, Ushan, Kamaya Manaha, Artham. He gives the meaning of that word. Sometimes the meaning he gives more complex than the original word. But he gives us a meaning. And then expands the word. And then sometimes he will write explanatory words, explanatory sentences in betweens. And sometimes he will say, this is the correct understanding. Why is this not the correct understanding? You may not see much of this here because he mentioned in his introductory Bashyam, he mentioned that I'm only writing a vritti, I'm not writing a Bashyam. That's the difference we saw. But he does one more thing. He writes Bashyam on the story itself. It is very good for us. Unlike in the Bhagavad Gita, where he doesn't write any Bashyam for the first chapter. He doesn't write any Bashyam till the 10th verse or 9th verse of the second chapter. As long as Arjuna is only talking about saying, how can I do this? How can I do it? There'll be Papa doing this. There'll be, if I kill this, this will happen, etc. He doesn't say anything. At best, he says, get up and fight. Why are you behaving like a coward? This is not you, etc. Only when Arjuna finally says, I am confused, please teach me, accept me as a student, he starts talking. And that's when Acharya starts writing Bhashyam. Here he writes the Bhashyam right from the beginning, from the story itself. So we will take a word, Ushan, Kame Manaha. Like that you will see Hava explains that. Vajashavasaha, the name itself he expands. See, Vajashavasaha could be the name which his parents gave. It's just Rudiyatha. Many times parents give children names which either don't have any meaning, simply because they like that name, or it's very common in that era. Especially in places like Punjab, they will call the son Tattu or Pittu or something like that. Quite common in Punjab. It's out of their own love for the child, out of their own what the word I want? Expression of like you would say darling and sweetheart or whatever. But there's some word. Many times you find people calling their friends also like that. Sometimes it has some meaning. Sometimes there's a meaning. A child is called Gaurav because in that era, Gaurav was a popular name, Gaurav. You ask them, why do you have a child, they name the child Gaurav? Because I like the name, because so-and-so star celebrity has a name called Gaurav. But most of our names are based on some form of Ishvara or some form of Ishvara Leela. Vajashravasa is a name that he has. So this is one possibility, is a Rudi meaning. But there is also an etymological derivation. I mean, we do that also. We very commonly use names like Padmaja, for example. Nice name, sounds nice, everything is good about it. But if you understand the meaning of that word, born of Padma, Padmaja, or Bhuvanaja. So the meaning is born out of, so you, again, it is it denotes some Ishvara. What is born out of Padma, Kamala? Ishvara, Ella Ishvara. So here also he says, he breaks the word, Vajashravasaha. Vajam is Annam. Vajam Annam. Vajam Annam. Tad Dana Nimittam Shravaha. Shravaha, also he'll explain, Yashaha. The one who has gained fame, Yashaha, by doing Annadanam. Annadanam in our culture is considered probably one of the best things for a human being to do. Because hunger and the pain it causes is a very fundamental characteristic of any being, not only human being. Which is why it is said that before you eat, every time feed another being, whether human being or non-human being. Every time. Before you eat, do Naivedyam, offer it to Ishvara. Any food that we take without giving to somebody else, Bhagavan says, somebody who does that is a thief. So in our culture, you see many places people build chowdhuries. People go on pilgrimage, and on the way you will find so many people set up spaces for Annadana. It's one of the most important punya karma, Annadana. Particularly for people like pilgrims going for a pilgrimage, but for anybody. So by doing that, one who has gained kirti, one who has gained fame. So Vajam is Annam, Shravaha is Yashaha. So the Shravaha who is gained, the Yashaha who is gained by being very generous Annadanam person, Yasya Saha Vajashrava. One who has gained a lot of kirti in this Jagat because of his actions of Annadanam. So, even the word name of Vajashrava is expanded. You can continue to read. Tasya apatyam
Tasya apatyam
Vajashravasaha
Vajashavasaha
Kila
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 Vishvajita
Vishvajita
Tasya apatyam Vajashravasaha Kila Vishvajita Sarvamedhe Neje
Vede Neje
Tatpalam Kamayamanaha
Tatphalam Kamayamana
Saha Tasmin Krantau
Saha Tasmin Krantau
Sarvavedasam
Vedasam
Sarvasvam Dhanam
Sarvasvam Dhanam
Dadau
Dadau
Tattavan.
Dattavan.
Vajashravasah Vishwajita in a yajna called Vishwajit, Sarva Mede Neja, Sarvam Edena Ija, Ij, one who Ij is who has given the past, Yajanam Kritavan. The phalam for that, desiring the phalam of this yajna, Kamaya Manaha. This Vishwajit is not something which everybody can do. Because Vishwajit requires giving away every single personal possession. Every single. Now, two things come out of this. One is that you must have personal possession to be able to give away. So typically you would find either the Raja, not the treasury of the people, but his own personal wealth, or somebody as rich, as well endowed as the Raja. So this Vajashavasaha may also have been a Raja. So one is that he should be able to give away everything. If you give away everything, what happens? Do you go and beg in the streets? No. After they complete the yajna, they have the capacity to regenerate the necessary wealth again. That kind of person is the only one who can do Vishwajit Yajna. All this is implied. So, Vajashravasah may have been a king. Vajashravasa kila Vishwajita, in the Vishwajit Yajna, everything has to be given away. You cannot say, for example, I have been begging in the streets and I've collected over time some wealth, and I have 3 begging bowls, and I've given away everything. Everything I had, all my personal possession, all the 3 begging bowls are given away. That is not Vishwajit Yajna. Vishwajit Yajna requires all the Ritviks, the Panditas, all the Brahmanas who come to attend the Yajna. At the end of the Yajna, they all given all of these possessions. Nothing is retained. Very interesting Yajna. Sarva Meneje Tat Phalam Kamayamana. Desiring the end result of giving away all of this. He's already, remember, he's known for his Annadanam. Ij Yajanam Kritavan Yajjadatu. So this Vajashravasah for doing that. And you will see later that his son is normally what you do have again all the family members sitting and watching. There's no mention of his wife, interestingly. But presumably she is also there, because most of the yajna you cannot do without the wife's presence. But his son was also obviously sitting there and watching everything. Tat phalam kamayamana, desiring the end result of this yajna, he was giving away everything, all his wealth. So Acharya explains further. Sa tasmin kratau sarvavedasam. Sarvavedasam is sarvasvam dhanam. Everything he had, all the possession he had. Dadau, dattavan. While this was happening, all the Pandits were there, Ritviks were there, they were doing the puja, and at the end of the puja, everything was being given away. And his son was also there. The son was there. He said, Tasya
Tasya
Yajamanasya
Yajamanasya
Nachiketa Nama
Nachiketa Nama
Putraha Kilasa
Putra
Putraha
Kilasa
Kilasa
Babhuva.
Babhuva.
So he has a son, Tasya, who's Yajamanasya. Yajamana is the one who's doing the puja. When we also do puja for anything, we also do it with a desire for an end result. We do a puja, Graha Pravesham, some Panditji we call, and we do the puja with a sankalpa. The sankalpa says, this is what I want. That everybody should remain happy in the house, prosperous in the house, whatever. And all that, only the sankalpa the Yajamana does. This is what I'm doing the puja for. All other part of the puja are done by people who understand Veda, who have studied that particular Veda, and they know the mantra full. Yajamana may not know the mantra. Many times we don't know the mantra. But when the puja is done, the Ritvik will chant all the mantra. He, having done the sankalpa, he can just sit there quietly, the Yajamana. So, tasya Yajamanasya Nachiketa Nama Putra Asa Babhuva. There was a son called Nachiketa. Now comes the interesting part. What was the son doing? Watching all the yajna, watching all the dakshina being given. See, these wealth is given away as dakshina. Dakshina not only to the people who are actually running the yajna, but also to all the people who are present there, all the brahmanas who come there, who have been invited there. So in that yajna hall, usually a very big hall, whoever is there, they are given dakshina. What was this boy doing? Tagum kumaragum santam
Ragum Kumaragum Santam
dakshinasu niyamanasu
Dakshinasu Niyamanasu
shraddha vivesha
Shraddha Vivesha
umanyata
So Manyata
kumaragam santam. What was he doing there? All this being given. Dakshina was being given, and he was sitting there and observing. All this, that's what we also do. Normally, these days, children get bored. After some time, they start rubbing their eyes and saying, oh, Rambapu, too much smoke here, I can't sit here. I want to go and sit in my room, put on the air conditioning. But we're supposed to be there, present. And this child, Nachiketa, was also sitting there and watching. What was he watching? Dakshinasu niyamanasu. All the dakshina that was being brought, niyamanasu. All the dakshina being brought, and he was sitting there and watching. Obviously, he's a thinking child. So he's looking at saying, okay, this one is going to so and so, this one is going to so and so. Probably watching and thinking about what goes to whom, what is being given away. Dakshinasu niyamanasu. There's a word, shraddha vivesha, shraddha avivesha. He had great shraddha. Shraddha enters him, overwhelmed by shraddha. He's watching all that. Shraddha vivesha. Shraddha astikya buddhi. Atibale putre स्नेहवशात् शोभना गाहा पुत्र धनत्वेन कल्पयित्वा Vruddha ga swadhanatvena matva swadhanam vruddha golakshanam dadau. The tika. Tika, just expansion of that. Watching all that. Dakshinasu niyamanasu tam kumaran svantam shraddha avivesha sa amanyata. You were looking at this and thinking. These two words, shraddha avivesha, overwhelmed by shraddha. Because he has shraddha in this thing. He obviously knows something about these rituals that are being performed. He knows that all wealth has to be given away. And when he was watching that, he started thinking. So amanyata, considering what is happening, what is being given away. Like I said, he's a child. At the same time, he's not an unthinking person. He's in that transition stage. His behavior will show us that. He's a child, and yet he's a person who has the capacity to think. Therefore, amanyata. For that, Acharya says, tam saha nachiketasam
Tam nachiketasam
kumaram
kumaram
prathama vayasam
vayasam
santam aprapta janana shaktim
santam aprapta janana shaktim
alameva
alameva
Shraddha astikya buddhihi
shraddha astikya buddhihi
pituhu hitakama prayukta.
pituhu hitakama prayuktaha.
You can read avivesha, but you can also add shraddha here because shraddha is indicated here. Avivesha
Avivesha
pravishtabati
pravrishtavati
tam hi nachiketasam kumaram prathama vayasam. Prathama vayasam is first entry into boyhood. Like I said, he's still a child in sometimes and a little bit grown up at other times. Prathama vayasam. One who is Dadi Mesa is also just about perhaps making their first appearances. That kind of stage the child is in. So Acharya explains, Prathama vayasam santam. Who is in that stage of growth, actually, is still in the Vardate stage. Santam. Aprapta janana shaktim. He is not yet gone to the next stage of after Vardate, Parinamate he is not gone to. Parinamate is transformation to a being capable of producing offsprings. Aprapta janana shaktim. Is not yet reached that stage. Now remember that time child goes through a lot of changes, physical changes, emotional changes. It's a very confusing stage. It's a confusing stage for the child and for the parent. Because the child already knows something. So if the father will tell the child, don't worry child, I know what's happening to you. This is normal. The child will think, what is he talking about? I myself don't know. How can he know? And the father ignores him. He says, what kind of father is he? I'm going through so many difficulties. He doesn't even come and help me with it, doesn't do anything. So either way, the father is stuck. So both are in that state of non-clarity. Prathama vayasam santam aprapta janana shaktim, not ready. Balameva, still a child in one way, but already he thinks he knows a lot. Today you talk to any 13-year-old, boy or girl, they will talk to you as if you don't know anything. They know everything. They can find answers to anything you want. And these days become even better. You have assistants like Siri. So anything they want to find out, they can just ask and find out. They never have to come to you finding out. That stage is common. So this child being in that stage, Prathamavayasam Santam Aprajana Shaktim Balameva Shraddha Astikya Buddhihi. Who knows that the Shastra is valid? He has Astikya Buddhi in Shastra. The Vedas are to be accepted as they are, with Shraddha. He is aware of that. He is aware of some amount, in modern day world, you will talk about child saying, I know everything about what is happening to, I don't know, in Ukraine. But that time when the child says he knows what is Veda. He studied some amount of Veda. He knows what are the rituals. In a Muslim world, this is the stage when the boy is given a knife and asked to slaughter a goat. Rather sad, but that's what's happening. In our this thing, the child is asked to, has already been taught our Swa Veda, whatever the Veda is in the family. Therefore, he knows something. He's understood a little bit, he's probably not understood a lot. But he is in that state, Balameva, Shraddhastikya Buddhihi. Astikya Buddhi is there, Shraddha is there, Shraddha in the Shastra is there. What Shastra says, I must follow. I don't question why. I know I won't understand, but I follow. Shraddha Astikya Buddhihi. Next part is important. What is the child thinking? The child is looking at his father doing the yajna and giving away all his wealth. All the time he's thinking, how can I help to make sure that the father gains whatever he's trying to gain by doing this yajna? Pituhu hitakama prayukta. What is the Shraddha that has got into him? The Shraddha that he has is in respect to his father gaining what he wants to gain by doing this yajna. Ituhu hitakama prayukta Shraddha avivesha pravishtati. Mukhandakam. Thinking, my father is doing all this, he's trying to gain certain things by doing all this. That's what his thought is. Amanyata. And then he goes on to say, in the original text it says, Tagum kumaram santam dakshinasu niyamanasu. Another two words, dakshinasu niyamanasu. When is he getting these thoughts? What is he looking at? He's seeing all the dakshina being brought in. Dakshinasu niyamanasu. Let the dakshina be brought in. We will see tomorrow what the child is thinking about when he sees the dakshina being brought in. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.